I'm going to be honest, I don't know if that music is sad enough to start off this show, because my goodness, if you are an Arizona State fan, you are either heading back to bed or you're probably hammered at this point. Welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show. It is time for another walk of shame. I am Anthony Totri, joined as always on these post-game show by the one, the only Ralph Amsden. Arizona State got their ass beat 55-3 by number 18 Utah. It was downhill really from the opening kickoff when they were reviewing targeting on that very first kickoff. It got out of hand quick. Trenton Bourguet goes down, finishes with a walking boot, obviously waiting on a official update from Kenny Dillingham on his status. We saw a lot of Jacob Conover today. Cam Scattaboo even getting in there at quarterback. Ralph, before we get into the numbers of this whole thing, man, like 55-3, the worst loss of the season. Where did it go wrong for Arizona State today?
June 2001.
Okay. Dial me in here. What happened June 2001? Because I was 4.
Oh, did I say 2001?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what was that? That was like the birth, the time in which most of these Utah players were born.
Yeah.
All the Utah seniors. Around the time all of the Utah seniors were born, that are on this Kyle Whittingham led team is when this was predestined to be rock bottom for us. Have you ever heard of a website called everydaypower.com?
I have not.
Well, neither had I. But my search for quotes about coming back from rock bottom took me to everydaypower.com. Rock bottom quotes to bounce back in life. 68 quotes that you have been looking for to bring you back from the brink. That's where I'm at right now in my life. Reading things like, rock bottom is not your end, it is your beginning. And here's a nice one. Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. That is from J.K. Rowling. So
wow.
It's very, very possible that we either start winning eventually, or one of the players on this current team writes the next great wizard novel.
That's fair. Because this really is rock bottom for both sides of the ball. Arizona State's defense on the back of giving Brian Ward an extension and a raise gives up 55 points to a Utah quarterback that going into this season would not be the starter if Cam Rising was healthy. And then on the flip side, the Arizona State offense with its worst performance in a long time. And when I say a long time, it's the second worst offensive performance in the history of Arizona State football. The only other time was, I don't even know the exact year, when they only accumulated 12 total yards against Arizona. Chris Cartman coming up with that just wild stat to think that Arizona State quite literally had a historic day, an awful historic day. I do want to get to the numbers of this one. Total yards, 513 total yards for Utah, 83 for the Sun Devils. When you look at the first down margin, Arizona State only able to get 6 first downs, Utah 26. And then this is a big one, third down conversions, Arizona State 1 of 15. On the flip side, Utah 10 of 16. And then you look at the ground game, Utah dominating a pretty stout Arizona State run defense. 352 rush yards for Utah to Arizona State's 43. three. Out of those numbers, Ralph, which one sticks out the most? I know last week we talked a lot about that third down conversion rate and how it helped Arizona State not have to go for it on fourth down. They kept offensive drives alive. That was a big one for you last week. What's the case this week?
Well, double-digit total yards kind of stands out.
83.
Yeah. There are Sun Devil boosters older than the amount of yards that we accrued today. And this is, what's interesting is a blowout like this on the basketball court is how we ended up with Bobby Hurley as head coach against Utah, in fact. Is how we ended up moving on from Herb Sendek and getting Bobby Hurley as head coach. This is not something that like the fan base and the donors, they don't tolerate not being competitive.
Yeah.
They don't tolerate getting embarrassed, especially when it happens like in the middle of the day when they're still awake to watch it happen. This is I can imagine there's going to be a lot of terse and tense conversations. Some of this is health related. But at the same time, you look at Utah, they're down to third string running back. They're down to third string quarterback. They've also had an inordinate amount of injuries this year. And to be dominated in this way, and then to be going out and doing things that I've never seen Arizona State have to resort to, a running back throwing bombs.
Yeah. But let's be real; those bombs looked better than Conover's throws today. They in my personal opinion, it was I'm not gonna put the blame on one person because that's not fair and that's not the story here. Like you said, there's a lot going on with this program. Injuries, they're in year one of a rebuild. The quarterback situation, the offensive line, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, a lot of it does fall on the quarterback, specifically when you look at an offense and Jacob Conover all week has been, you knew, at least Kenny knew that, yes, Rashada, yes, Pine were back at practice in some sort of capacity, but knowing that they're not going to dress out, Jacob Conover is getting these 2 reps, right? So, it just felt like from the moment that he was out there that he was lost, right? And you can't have that any given Saturday, but especially on the road against a Kyle Whittingham Utah team that comes to play every single week with some of the best. And really from that opening drive from the offense, even when Bourguet was out there, it was they were outclassed. That's exactly what it was. They were outclassed in the trenches and all week long. That's something that I've been harping on of if you want a chance to beat this Utah team, right, you got to be more physical than them, which is a tough thing to do in Salt Lake City. And Arizona State really, they couldn't match it. They couldn't match the level of physicality and aggression that Utah was playing with every single snap. And to make matters worse, there's people on social media that I see, why is Utah running up the score? We shouldn't even be having to worry about it. If they're able to score 55 points and score a touchdown on their last offensive play, that's on the team. That's on ASU. That's on Arizona State's defense. And knowing Kenny, knowing Brian Ward, this is obviously something that is going to be harped on. They are going to try and correct these things. But at a certain point, you're this is the worst loss of the season by far. You lose by 52 points. And you only have really 3 games left in the season. We're all talking about next year. We're talking about the recruiting. We're talking about the offseason, and rightfully so, right? The expectation is next year there's going to be a little bit more of a product to evaluate. But this year, with only 3 games left, from a fan's perspective, right? I feel like you've got to be a little bit nervous after one of these games, regardless of the injuries, because they just didn't come to play today. Nobody.
Right. This is the second time in 5 years that we have taken a freshman left tackle and put it up against Utah's best pass rusher. It worked out the same way both times. Conover has to be ready. That's what it comes down to. I love Jacob Conover. I know him well. I know his father. I followed him closely as he won 3 state championships in the state of Arizona, one of the most decorated quarterbacks to ever play in the state of Arizona. He's, in year 4 or 5 out of high school. At this point, Utah shouldn't intimidate him. He was on BYU's roster. Um, is an offense of a freshman left tackle against an NFL level rush end feasible for anybody? No, but at the same time, it just bottled up. Arizona State's going to take blame in all the places that it can take blame.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're in a position where you barely have the personnel to even field a team, and that's not an excuse. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
And you have another beat up team that knows exactly what you're going through because they're going through it themselves. But their roster has been developed over time. They have continuity built in. They have familiarity with the scheme. They have home field advantage. They are the more physical team, and they're not afraid to go after and exploit your weaknesses. Utah has had enough time with, even though it is their third string quarterback, this is like week 6 of that experiment. They've had enough time with that quarterback to know his strengths and his weaknesses. If Arizona State was going into a week knowing that it was going to be Jacob Conover the entire time, perhaps that's something that could get schemed a little bit better. One of the things I brought up about Brian Ward, who just got an extension, is that, if in game what he's trying to do gets figured out, then, it can get real ugly real quick. And it's also hard to plan for a team just like it's hard for USC to plan for ASU. When we got a bunch of gimmicky stuff because of how beat up we are, it's also a little bit difficult for anybody to plan for what to do for Oregon based on who is and who isn't going to be available for them. You just know that they're going to bring the physicality, and they did, and it wasn't matched. And there's no difference to me between 34-3 and 55-3. There's no difference at all. None. There is no such thing as running the score up when 14-3 was out of reach.
Yeah.
When 14-3 was out of reach, any point that happened after that was running it up.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And that's something that I don't think a lot of fans maybe acknowledge when it gets to the end of the game, because you see the 55-3 and you can only think of that. But in reality, watching that first quarter, right, it felt already, like you said, it felt out of reach. You're down, you're behind the 8 ball. This is a team that likes to feed scat, likes to do gimmicky things. We saw last week the importance of the Carlos Brooks, him not being out there today, Asaya Glass not traveling with the team to Salt Lake City for unknown reasons, and then you mentioned having to throw out a true freshman left tackle out there against an NFL prospect. It's not really a recipe for success, and the injuries aren't an excuse. And to your point, it really is. It's reality, but it's a sad reality if you're an Arizona State fan, because I think after last week's win against Washington State, I think there were a lot of people that tried to talk themselves into, we're going to go into Salt Lake City and we're going to have a real shot at this. And I think there is something that I talk about, that I know that coaches talk about, that like a lot of people try and get themselves back to the center, right? To a fresh start after a win, after a loss. You have the 24-hour rule. You're celebrating or you're watching the tape, whatever, and then you get back to zero. That way, it's a new week, right? And I think fans sometimes have a difficult time doing that, because they're like, okay, Washington State was in the AP top 25 not too long ago. Utah is what? Yeah, they're a top 25 team, but they're in the bottom half of it, like number 18. Like, maybe there's a shot. At the end of the day, Kyle Whittingham knows what he's doing, and there's a reason why Utah is consistently in the conversation for Pac-12 championship, consistently in the AP top 25. Like, that's why Kenny Dillingham said that Utah is the gold standard at the start of the week, right? They want to get to that point, the point where you're going out there and you're beating teams 55-3, even when you're on your second or third string guys, because they understand the system. The system's in place. The culture is in place. The coaching staff is in place. The caliber of player is in place. And Arizona State in year 1 is just not there yet. And I think that might be the tough thing at this point in the season for some Arizona State fans to grasp. And let's be real, watching the game itself, it's tough to grasp, right? Especially after a game in Washington State, right? Like, you want to believe that this team is going to be able to go out there and hang around with an AP top 25 team in Utah. But Utah they're a great football team. Like, let's not get it confused that they're just good. They're an AP top 25. If Cam Rising was playing quarterback for Utah right now, they'd be a top 15 team pretty easily. And I think they'd probably be a one-loss team competing for a Pac-12 championship. But we're going to continue the conversation here about Arizona State's 55-3 loss to Utah here in a second. But just like Utah didn't let their foot off the gas, I need you guys to head to your nearest Circle K to fill up on gas and take advantage of some of the great deals that they have with their new free membership program, where you guys can save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Save 3 cents per gallon every single day, which adds up, guys, and get every 6th free on a selection of Circle K products, whether that be pizza, coffee, ice cold fountain drinks, energy drinks, Gatorade, all the lovely deals that they have on snacks and gas over at Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Now, if you're not an Arizona State fan and you're not a Utah fan and you're a fan of college football, you probably turned that game off pretty quickly unless you had placed a bet. And if you did, hopefully it was on the BetMGM Sportsbook app and you guys were able to take advantage of a sweet offer where you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android, or visit betmgm.com and sign up with that code PHNX because there's some free money for you guys. Sign up and deposit at least $10 into your newly created account and place a wager in the amount of at least $10 at standard odds price, a qualifying bet. And once you have placed a qualifying bet, you guys are going to receive $200 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your wager. If you're an ASU fan, hopefully you emotionally hedged and you made some money today. So again, take advantage of that offer. If you haven't signed up yet, sign up for BetMGM and use that bonus code PHNX. Place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through BetMGM Sportsbook mobile app of at least $10, and you guys are going to receive that $200 we talked about instantly in additional winnings regardless of your wager's outcome. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
This is a tough game to really wrap your head around because I think all season long offensively when there's been issues, at least for me, Ralph, it's been like, okay, it just doesn't feel like we're getting the ball in playmakers' hands enough, right? Like Elijah Badger doesn't have enough targets or Jalen Conyers doesn't have enough targets. Xavier Guillory, some of those guys. We saw Jordan Tyson out there today as well, right? Like it's tough for this game to be like, oh, they didn't get enough targets because it feels like even if they had all those targets and catches, whatever, it doesn't make a difference in a 52-point loss, right? Like it is difficult to try and find a way outside of like big picture things for this team to be like, oh, if they would have done this, they could have won the game, right? Like we're sitting here and there's not really anything that we can say to be like, well, you know, if they did this differently, well, then maybe they could have, you know, somehow come out on top.
Yeah. Have you guys like tried winning? Have you tried like instead of losing, maybe they just haven't considered scoring points and then stopping the other team from scoring points. Maybe they haven't thought about that.
Yeah, I didn't think
come up with a solution.
They weren't thinking about it today. That's not what was on their mind.
Are you ready for your next Cope quote from everydaypower.com?
Yeah, I need it.
/ rock bottom quotes. Okay. Here we go. Number 52. How could you rise anew if you did not first become ashes? That's from Nietzsche.
Is that where we're at? We're ashes. Can I have one more, please? I just need one more.
Yeah. I'm gonna hit you with one you've probably heard before, and I don't know if this one actually applies or not. If you're going through hell, keep going. That's Winston Churchill.
Wow. And Arizona State fans, they have that luxury because there's still 3 games left on the season. So hell's not over with, guys. It's far from over. And I was watching the game, and the Coyotes game's going on in here. The Suns obviously played this morning. Last time I checked, the Coyotes had 3 goals. They had as many goals as Arizona State had points today, which is a tough thing to watch in this in this office. And then what's even worse is we had by the numbers, right? You got these just wild discrepancies in stats. And then I look at the rest of the box score, and I'm looking at some of these players' individual stats. Ralph, do you know who led the team in receptions today by chance? Just off the top of your head.
Oh my gosh. Was it Badger?
Nope. It was Kyson Brown. Kyson Brown led the team in receptions today with 3 yards. Do you know who led the team in receiving yards?
I do not. I do not.
Gio Sanders with a 20-yard grab.
Catch our 1 first down.
Yeah. Elijah Badger had a single catch today for 1 yard, targeted 3 times. Outside of that, Jalen Conyers not targeted at all. Xavier Guillory, I didn't even really see him out there today. Jordan Tyson didn't have, he had a target, but there was a penalty on the play. And Scat had 12 carries for 31 yards. He obviously had 1 pass. And Troy O'Meara made a ridiculous grab, and there was an offensive pass interference. Melquan Stovall had a great punt return for a touchdown that ended up getting called back because of a penalty. Elijah Badger had a 78-yard kickoff return that ASU was only able to get 3 points out of it. It was that kind of game today. Everything that they did right, which was so few and far between, there was always something to bring it back. A penalty. Yeah. The offense wasn't able to continue to move the football. It was just that kind of day for Arizona State.
Can I address something from the chat? Because I don't know how this came across, but we have Doug Allen in here saying, Ralph, you're talking about firing Kenny Dillingham? I get today sucked, but get off the ledge. Come on, man. That's just a bad take. I get where you're coming from. Herb had been at ASU a long while. No. No. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I was saying was giant losses to this 2 schools like Utah make the people in suits' tummies hurt.
That's the perfect way to sum it up. That's Ralph, tell me how this feels, but I'm 5. Tell me how it feels, but I don't understand it in any other way than that. It makes people in suits' tummies hurt.
Yes. The people with advanced degrees need a nap and a snack after that one. Possibly a blankie.
Oh my goodness. And it doesn't get any easier, Ralph, because they managed to put up 3 points on Utah's defense, and I know Utah is good. They are what they are, but you got the best defense in the conference next week in UCLA. It really doesn't get any easier.
So you said as many points as the Coyotes scored goals. So let's positive spin this, right? PHNX, people like to come here, feel a little lighter when they leave. This was the Dario Longetto hat trick game.
Right? That's exactly what it was, Ralph.
Do you remember the Dario Longetto hat trick game?
Is that what it's going to be?
That's what
it's going to be called from now on. Yeah,
on the road. Hat trick on the road.
My face literally hurts from smiling too much, Ralph. That's where I'm at. You know where you've lost your mind to the point where you're just you laugh? You feel crazy to the point of just giggling?
Or when you're laying in bed watching this game and in the third quarter you turn and look down to your left and there's a pile of your kids' Halloween candy wrappers and it's stacked up 12 inches? You mean like that?
Exactly like that.
My tummy hurts.
Look, man, it's certainly a game that I think these guys, or not that I think, I know these guys, they're going to eat up that film. And then you just kind of have to push this to the side. A loss is a loss. At the end of the day, it is what it is. It's going to be an L. These guys, we talk with them just about every single practice. Jalen obviously comes in, he does his show, and we got a pretty good understanding of the vibe in the locker room. I feel like it's got to be this out of all of the games is going to be the toughest one for them to come back and give everything that they have after a 52-point loss like this. But they've done it time and again, right? They did it after the Fresno State game. They did it after a close USC game. They did it after a heartbreaker against Colorado. They did it against Oklahoma State, right? This team finds ways to rebound emotionally, and they are going to be tested this week in trying to rebound emotionally.
That's because they have visited everydaypower.com/rock bottom quotes, and they've already seen things like it's going to be okay. No matter how hard your rock bottom is, you can rise above it and you can come back. That's from Demi Lovato.
God, I need a Ralph. And before the end of the show, I need a Ralph Everyday Power quote. Okay. By the end of the show, that's what I need. Now, I know there's a ton of people at home that are watching this Arizona State game. And at a certain point, you're probably just glancing around your house being like, I wonder how I can avoid having to watch the rest of this game. So maybe you opted to start doing some home improvement. Maybe you're looking for some new flooring. Empire Today is the place for you guys. You get shop at home convenience and the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today, the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they're going to have some copycats, but Empire Today can't be beat on quality, service, and speed. Guys, they have a phenomenal offer for you where you can schedule a free in-home estimate today. Hopefully, some of you guys took advantage of that while the ASU game was going on. That way you weren't wasting any of your time. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use that promo code PHNX. That is a massive discount for you guys. Restrictions do apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. Now, if you are watching this lovely post-game show, you're probably wondering about all the little knickknacks that are behind me. And there's also some awesome stuff when we don't have Ralph on the screen that you could see over here. My personal favorite is we got a Diamondbacks straw hat. Now, I know the Arizona Diamondbacks season is over, but it's still my favorite thing that they have over at FOCO. They have the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. They are a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. So while we were talking about home improvement, maybe some of you guys, you're getting that new flooring with Empire, you're getting a new office, and you're trying to figure out how you can stack up your shelves with some cool knickknacks. FOCO is the place for you. They always have our back for Arizona sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by visiting www.foco.com and using that code PHNX. For all non-presale items, use that promo code PHNX for 10% off. Danny in the chat, I can't wait until next year when we can really see Jaden Rashada play. We only saw flashes, but by the time he is a senior, he will be lights out. Ralph, I'm curious from your perspective as we move forward with the quarterback situation. Trenton Bourguet was in a boot post-game. Jacob Conover, obviously, we saw him out there against this Utah team today. This is a team in Arizona State that is really running out of players to play quarterback. Jaden Rashada, Drew Pine, they did return in some capacity to practice this past week. At this point in the season, I know Jaden Rashada can still play a couple games and keep that red shirt. Do you at any point consider putting him back in this spot with where the offensive line is at?
No. And I wouldn't. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And that's not saying we need to prioritize who we get injured because that's what it sounds like you're talking about.
That's tough. You're right. That's tough. You're right.
I'm not. These are kids. These are human beings. It's not about protecting future assets. It does not make sense to put somebody in a position to have their development stunted.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with injury whatsoever. It doesn't make sense to put Usain Bolt in Uggs when he's about to run. You want to put somebody in a situation to succeed.
Yeah.
Period. And you have veterans on this roster who are going to be a little bit more adaptable to situations like this. It's not ideal for somebody like Jacob Conover if he has to start against UCLA, but he's up for it. I guarantee you that. This is somebody who went head to head with IMG as a high schooler.
Yeah.
Right. Like there were multiple first round picks bearing down on him in this game. He's not afraid. It's just a matter of, can you set him up to have any success? And also, how much time has he spent on everydaypower.com /rock bottom quotes?
Dear God. They're getting like free ads on this. Honestly, I love that for them. I love that for them. And I know, man. Max is gonna be like, "What was going on?" I'll be like, "This is where we were at. We were at rock bottom, and we needed some life. We needed
their
some hope."
traffic. They're looking to look at their traffic numbers. Massive spike all out of Tempe, Arizona.
I think they're actually a publicly traded company.
Oh my gosh, buy stock in that right now. Right now, everydaypower.com, because if you're an Arizona State fan, maybe you need a motivational quote to get you out of the mud. Look, there's the nice thing about kicking off at 11 a.m. is you could be done. Your day of college football, if you'd like it to be, is over. You don't have to wait all day till a 7:30 kickoff and then have to watch this right before you go to bed. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon right now. You can do whatever you want with the rest of your day. That way, by the time your head hits the pillow, you're all in well. You're chilling, you're relaxing. Like Ralph said, maybe you go to everydaypower.com and you get yourself a motivational quote and you're just ready to rock. You're ready to rock for next week. You're ready to rock for the rest of the football season. Ralph, before we get out of here, any final thoughts or, I guess, words of motivation and wisdom for Sun Devil Nation?
I know it's funny, but I'm actually going to share one from my guy C.S. Lewis. Has all the answers about all the things. Are you ready? Experience is a brutal teacher, but you learn.
That is true. That is true. Ralph has been on this post-game show multiple times, and he's been right. He's right. There is nothing that this team needs more, I guess, than lessons, or it's nothing more that they've experienced this season more than lessons, and that's what you get from a lot of these losses. This is going to be one damn smart football team because they have a lot of experience under their belt in a bunch of different circumstances, a bunch of different situations. Arizona State obviously has the opportunity to rebound in a really tough matchup against UCLA next week. We'll see what they're capable of. If you're looking forward to watching that game, we will definitely be having a post-game show, as always, right here, the PHNX _ Sun Devils show. And then also this week, Bobby Hurley and company, the Arizona State basketball season tips off. They've got post-game shows on Wednesday, on Saturday, so it is definitely going to be a week for ASU fans. And if you are an ASU fan, if you enjoy the content, if you enjoy the motivational speeches that we get from Ralph, definitely go give us a follow over at PHNX _ Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony _ Totri. You could follow the legend himself at Ralph Amsden. And guys, 2 things before we get out of here. As always, go Devils and peace.
We all silly like the mayor.